Okay, welcome back. So right now we're going to look at one of the ways we can calculate the circumference of a circle. And remember, the circumference is just a fancy way of saying the perimeter of a circle, or the length of it, the total outside of a circle. So one way we can do this is using the formula here, c equals 2 pi r. And if you remember from algebra, 2 pi r is exactly the same thing as 2 times pi times r, which is our radius. So in each one of these particular questions, we're given a radius, and all we have to do is calculate what our circumference is going to be. And to do this, we're going to use a calculator. I'll leave a link to the calculator emulator that I'm using in the description. But right now, let's get started. So for our first one, the circumference is going to be equal to 2 times pi times our radius, which in this case is 4 meters. So all we need to do now is bring over our calculator and do 2 times pi times 4, and then we can just hit execute, and what we get is 25.13. And this will still be in the same units that we had before. Alright, let's do our next one. So for B, our circumference is going to be equal to 2 times pi times 32. Again, go back to our calculator, do 2 times pi times 32. Hit execute, and you get 201.06. And that is in the same units, so it's centimeters. If we look at C, we have a radius of 7.4 meters, so our circumference is going to be equal to 2 times pi times that 7.4. Alright, so go back to our calculator, do 2 times pi times 7.4. Hit execute, and you get 46.49. Now, because the next digit over is a 5, we're going to round that up, so it's 46.50. Alright, for D is our last one. We have circumference is equal to 2 times pi times our radius, which is 9.5. Alright, so go back to our calculator, 2 times pi times 9.5, hit execute, and we get 59.69. Okay. Another thing we have to learn is that there is a different formula that we can use for calculating the circumference, and that is to use, instead of the radius, the diameter. So because we have the diameter equaling 2 times the radius, the formula changes to c equals pi times diameter. So for our first one, because our diameter is 4 meters, the circumference is going to be equal to pi times 4. And if we bring up our calculator, and we do pi times 4 and hit execute, we get 12.566, rounding up, that will be 12.57. If we look at B, we have our 14 centimeter diameter, so our circumference is going to be equal to pi times 14. So let's do that. Now we can do pi times 14, hit execute, and we get 43.98. Alright, and that is centimeters. If we look at C, our diameter is 3.6, so our circumference is going to be equal to pi multiplied by 3.6. So our circumference will be equal to pi multiplied by 3.6, hit execute, and you get 11.309, so 11.31. Alright, and finally we have d, and d is just going to be our circumference is equal to pi multiplied by 6.4, so that is going to be equal to, just put it into the calculator, pi multiplied by 6.4 and hit execute. And we get 20.106, so 20.11. Here's some for you guys to practice, so just give the video a pause, give them a go, and then I'll solve them. Okay, let's get started with our first one, 3a. So for a, what we want is to calculate the circumference using the radius, so we're using 2 pi r. So for this one, our circumference will equal 2 times pi times our radius, which is 5. Alright, now let's bring up our calculator. Alright, so our end result is 31.415, so 31.42. 31.42 meters. Alright, for B, we have again, our circumference is going to be equal to 2 times pi times our radius, which is going to be 12. Okay, so now we've done 2 times pi times 12, and we have 75.39, so rounding that up, because of our next digit is an 8, it's going to be 75.40. Alright. Now looking at C, we have a circle with a radius of 6.2 meters, so we need to do circumference is equal to 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by our radius, 6.2. Alright, let's put that in our calculator. Alright, in this case, what we get is 38.955, so 38.96 would be the 2 decimal places. 38.96 meters. Alright, let's look at D. For D, we have circumference is equal to 2 times pi times 5.5. So 2 times pi times 5.5, hit execute, and you get 34.557. So we need to round that up and make it 34.556. Alright, now let's look at part 4. So for 4a, we're going to use the other formula for circumference, pi times diameter. So our circumference here will be equal to 6 times pi, and that will be equal to, well, let's pull up our calculator. Six multiplied by pi, hit execute, and you'll get 18.84 9, so 18.85. Alright, for B, we have our circumference is going to be equal to pi multiplied by 12. So this one we get 37.699, so 37.70. Okay, for C, we have our circumference is equal to pi multiplied by a diameter, which is 46. So this is equal to pi multiplied by 46, hit execute, and we get 144.51. Alright, for D, we need to determine our circumference is equal to pi multiplied by 8.4, and that just equals pi multiplied by 8.4, hit execute, and we get 26.389, so 26.39. Alright, that's it for this video. Hopefully it was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.